In this video, I'm going to show you what I think are 5 of the most useful pens for making art. Out of the 50-something pens in my collection, these are the pens that I find myself reaching for again and again, and though these things are highly subjective, these are the pens that I would recommend to those interested in using a fountain pen to draw. Because there's no point in showing you 5 pens that are essentially the same, each of these pens are different in some way, serving a different purpose in my drawing arsenal. But even though these pens are different, they share a few common qualities that make them particularly useful for artists. All of these pens are durable, reliable, easy to clean and maintain, and have decent ink capacity, making them perfect for use in rough and tumble environments of the studio or the field. And while some of these pens pushed past the comfort zone of what many artists are willing to spend, none of them are too extravagantly priced or hard to obtain. And you should think of them as lifetime investments that'll easily pay for themselves many times over in the course of your artistic practice. Okay, in no particular order of preference, the first pen I recommend is the Noodlers Ahab. This was the second fountain pen I ever bought, right after a Pilot Metropolitan, and after all these years, while my Metropolitan is in the back of a drawer somewhere, this is still in continuous use, being hands down the single most versatile, useful, and stinkiest pen in my arsenal. I know this pen is divisive, people either love it or hate it, but hear me out. If you hate it, I might just convince you to hold your nose and learn to like it, and if you already love it, I might convince you to love it even more. So, besides driving away people that are trying to peek over your shoulder while you're drawing, the thing that makes this pen so great for artists is its tremendous versatility. First, it can be filled in 3 ways, the first of which is this piston-style converter, which, unlike many converters, provides excellent ink capacity and is very easy to clean. The only annoyance is that the piston rod is hollow and ink can get inside it. You can't plug the hole with some silicone adhesive, which would make cleaning far easier. I just never got to it. And if you want even more ink capacity, you can take out the converter, apply silicone grease on the threads, add a rubber ring, and then fill the pen with an eyedropper. The only caveat, and this is true of many eyedroppers, is that this will make the pen prone to burping if ink levels get low. My favorite filling option, however, are these wonderful sealable, refillable cartridges. They hold a ton of ink and are super useful for travel. I even occasionally use them to carry ink for my other pens. This is a fantastic idea that I wish more companies implemented. Now, because the pen is very simply constructed with a friction fit nib, a removable barrel, and a simple piston converter, it's very easy to clean. If I want to switch inks, all I have to do is quickly take everything apart, rinse in water, and it's ready to be filled again. Sadly, the original nib on this pen is just so-so. But the great news is that it's a very common number 6 size and can be replaced with a huge number of far better options. Most importantly, this monster, the number 6 Ultraflex nib made by Fountain Pen Revolution. This is a wonderful, super flexible nib that gives you massive line variation that is one of my favorite nibs to draw with. And because the Ahab has an ebonite feed with a very generous ink flow, the Ultraflex works absolutely great, better than in any other pen I've tried with it. Besides an FPR Ultraflex, you can use the Ahab with any number of high-quality steel nibs made by Jovo, or even a Fude nib, like this one. Or, with a little bit of tinkering, even a large variety of dip pen nibs, such as this Zebra G dip nib. Is this pen perfect? No, not even close. Besides being stinky, it will occasionally suffer from hard starts or burping. Some people complain that they can't get it to work at all. Mostly it's a question of proper heat setting, which you can learn how to do from a number of YouTube sources. Once you've figured out how to do that, you shouldn't have too many problems. You can also, if you need additional ink flow, supercharge this pen with an overfeed that looks like this, which I demonstrate how to make in one of my videos, the link to which I'm going to leave below. So, what do I usually use this pen for? These days, mostly to draw with a superb Fountain Pen Revolution Ultraflex nib. It also, because of its generous ink flow, works great with a Fude nib, particularly when I want to work on rough watercolor paper. And while it's not the best pen to carry around in your pocket, or to take on an airplane, or even just shake vigorously, the portability issues are solved entirely with these jumbo ink cartridges. I only wish they were a little tiny bit shorter so they could be transported inside the pen barrel. Okay, pen number 2, and this is also a no-brainer for me, the TWSBI Eagle. I've gone over why I adore this pen before, but in short, it combines everything I'm looking for in a pen with the exception of flex. And actually, one of my videos describes a way to get that too. It's a perfect size and weight, it posts securely, which is great in the field where losing a pen cap is a serious issue. It has a built-in filling system with fantastic ink capacity, and because it's clear, you can see exactly how much ink you have. The built-in mechanism makes the pen easy to flush, but since they're fully disassemblable, they can be cleaned thoroughly. This is one of the few pens that I don't hesitate to ink up with pigmented ink because even if it clogs, everything can be pulled out and given a good scrub down. The Eco features a high-quality steel nib made by Yovo that shows up in many high-end brands that cost well over $100. And these pens are super reliable. Unlike the Ahab, which sometimes needs to be adjusted before it starts working, the Eco never drips or has hard starts and will work perfectly right out of the box. This is the pen for the artist that just needs a sturdy workhorse who doesn't care about flex and doesn't want to bother with heat setting. No frills, just the basics done well. And for under $30, you're not going to cry if it breaks or you lose it. What do I use this pen for? Well, I carry 5 of these in my portable sketching kit, 3 in different nib sizes, 1 with a custom-made Fude nib, and 1 with white ink. By the way, you don't need to buy this many pens if you enjoy using nibs of different sizes. The nib is friction fit and pulls out very easily. That allows you to switch nibs in and out so you can carry 1 pen and a bunch of nibs of various sizes, and if you don't mind getting your hands dirty, switch them as you draw. The only drawback is that the Eco uses a number 4 size nib, which is rather uncommon to other brands, so you're limited to using TWSBI nibs. If you've done even a slight amount of research on fountain pens, you know that vintage pens are very highly regarded, with some people turning their noses at modern pens, preferring to use vintage pens exclusively. I have a video where I discuss the advantages and disadvantages of vintage and modern fountain pens at length, but long story short, vintage pens do offer superior performance over modern pens. But for the most part, their cost and fragility make them unsuitable for regular studio use. There are a few exceptions, however, and this is one of them, the Montblanc Monterosa 042G, which is number 3 on my list. This pen, made by Montblanc for the student market between 1950 and 1970, is very solidly built, featuring one of the first piston mechanisms with a silicone seal, as opposed to the more fragile cork. While not exactly cheap, this pen was widely manufactured and can easily be bought through eBay, with current prices running at around $130. Now, if you're new to fountain pens, that might seem to be a shocking amount, but hear me out. This pen features a wonderful 14 karat gold semi-flex nib. The cheapest modern pen with a somewhat flexible gold nib is probably the Pilot Custom 74, which is around $100 if you order it on the gray market directly from Japan. But the Monterosa outperforms it. If you want an actual semi-flexible nib in a modern pen, you have to get the Pilot Falcon, another excellent pen, but one which will run you, gray market or not, around $180. But the Monterosa also outperforms it. And neither of these Pilot pens have a built-in filling mechanism, which the Monterosa does. In short, if you're looking for the best gold semi-flex pen, vintage or modern, under $150, this is it. It's just a wonderful pen for drawing, super smooth and responsive with just enough line variation to keep things interesting. Furthermore, while many flex pens write very wet, which creates problems if you're doing a lot of heavy cross-hatching, this pen actually writes a little bit on the dry side, which means you're not waiting for lines to dry or worried that you'll smear something in your drawing if you pass your hand over it. And again, unlike many vintage pens, this one is rock solid. I wouldn't hesitate to use it in a rough studio environment or out in the field. As with many vintage pen purchases, be patient and purchase carefully. The price of the pen will fluctuate on eBay, but don't pay more than $150 for one. Unfortunately, these pens are not so common in the United States, so expect to pay an additional $16 to $25 for international shipping. I've already mentioned 2 Pilot pens, the Pilot Falcon and the Pilot Custom 74 with a soft fine nib, and both are excellent pens. But if I have to recommend one of the Pilots, it would be this one, the Pilot 912 FA. This, according to many of the flexperts, is the best modern flex pen on the market. While I haven't had the chance to try the Montblanc 149 calligraphy model, the $1,000 price tag puts it completely out of my reach. This pen, on the other hand, can be obtained for about $160. The only caveat is to make it work to its fullest potential, you need to substitute the plastic feed with one made of ebonite, which can be obtained from the Flexible Nib Factory for about $27. If you've seen my video where I compare the Pilot Flex pens in my collection, you've heard me say that all the Pilot pens are very reliable. They never leak or suffer from hard starts or from the many faults commonly found in flex pens. They're pricey to be sure, but if you get one, you'll have a flex pen that is guaranteed not to cause you problems. In addition, as much as I prefer pens with built-in filling systems, I have to admit that cartridge converters, such as this one, have their advantages. They're easy to clean, easy to travel with, and then, other than the converter, which can be replaced, there are no moving parts that will eventually wear out. Furthermore, the push-button Con70 converter has very good ink capacity, which is good because flex pens go through a lot of ink. So, what purpose does this pen serve in my drawing arsenal? Since it's on the expensive side, it usually doesn't leave the confines of my studio. So the Ahab usually goes with me when I need a flex pen for sketching in situations where drawing with an expensive pen would make me nervous. But when I'm in my studio, the Ahab gets put away and I reach for the Pilot 912 FA. While the first 4 of these pens were fairly easy choices, the 5th was difficult, so much so that I thought of stopping at 4. But since 5 seemed like a good number, just in terms of having a juicy title for a video, I decided to put my nose to the grindstone and come up with one more. There are so many pens that I use regularly, but fall short of making the list for a number of reasons. For example, this Boston safety pen made by Noodlers is awesome for artists. With this unusual design, the nib is kept immersed in the ink reservoir, so the pen never dries out, and because the cap completely seals off the nib, you can not only fly with this pen, but shake it, throw it in your bag without a single drip in the cap. You can also, and I've never actually tried doing this, fill with inks that would destroy other fountain pens, such as shellac-based drawing inks designed for dip pens. The problem is that the nib in this thing is pretty lackluster, so in order to make it work really well, you need to switch it out with a vintage gold flex nib. With a vintage nib, like this one, these pens are fantastic, combining a sturdy, absolutely leak-proof body with the outstanding performance of a vintage gold flex nib. But hunting down a vintage flex nib that is compatible with this pen takes time, patience, and well, it's not cheap, so this pen falls short of making my top 5 list. Then we have the Pilot 743 FA. This marvelous pen has a touch less flex than the 912 FA, but in some ways performs even better with a springier nib, making it more suitable for sharp calligraphic strokes. But I already have a really good Pilot pen on this list, and this pen regularly retails in the mid-200 range, which makes it too expensive to be a regular studio tool. 2 good reasons why this pen falls short of making the top 5 list. Then I thought of recommending a pocket pen. Lately, I've been a little bit obsessed with my Kaweco Brass, which has found a permanent home in my pocket ever since I got it. It's super useful in situations where either I can't carry a pen case or just have no need for anything other than a pen. But this pen has very poor ink capacity, and the nib in it is also nothing special and required me to switch it with a vintage gold nib. Plus, there are other pocket pens that I also really like these 2 TWSBIs, the Mini and the Mini Vac, and also I really like this Opus 88 Fantasia. But perhaps pocket pens, which are meant to be used for very short periods of time, are a whole other pen category that warrants its own video, so I decided to exclude any pocket pen from my top 5 list. For those that think that some of these pens are extravagant, I could recommend this one, the Platinum Preppy. It's $4 and it works great. But the wonderful thing about these is that the barrel is solid plastic, so you can eyedropper them. Now, why do you need a pen this cheap? Well, you can get a bunch of them, fill them with ink of different colors or different diluted values, or get them in a variety of thicknesses. If they break, which they will, no problem. If you lose them, also no problem. These you can lend to a friend to get them hooked on fountain pens without risking their relationship if they lose it. They work every single time, they don't dry out or leak, and the nibs on these are surprisingly high quality. But you didn't sit through this video just to hear me recommend a $4 pen that everyone knows about. So, what is my 5th recommendation? I think it'll have to be this one. This is the Opus 88 demonstrator, or any one of the other large Opus 88 pens. This one is the Omar, and this one is the Jazz, depending on which design you like. All of these are eyedropper-filled pens with enormous ink capacity that feature a shutoff valve, preventing the usual problem that eyedroppers have, the tendency to burp. This pen is on the larger side, but still very comfortable to hold, but the best part about it is that it uses a standard JoWo housing unit, which means that you can easily switch the original nib with dozens of other options. So for example, a music nib that looks like this, or this very strange posting nib with a tip that is curved downward, or a Fude nib, an Architect nib, or better yet, a nib from a Pilot Parallel that's been modified to have a little bit of curve in it, which gives you tremendous line variation. And since these nibs switch out very easily, just screwing in and out. Instead of carrying 5 different pens, you can just buy one and 5 different nib units and carry them around in a little separate case. In terms of versatility, I think that's pretty impressive. So this Opus 88 demonstrator is my 5th pen recommendation. I hope you found this video informative, and I'm curious to know what your 5 most useful artist pens might be. Let me know in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and see you all in the next video where I'll be reviewing this little pen, the Kaweco Lilliput in copper, which was sent to me by Goldspot Pens, with whom I am now an affiliate. If you'd like to support my channel and this wonderful online retailer, please make your pen purchases through my affiliate link posted below.